Peace and love, family. Welcome to U.S. Political Prisoners and You, brought to you by the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition and EPPC on a number of platforms, but most importantly, a platform that's our Black Power Media. And we always are thankful for the opportunity to speak about this serious and often ignored issue, that of political prisoners. So today, is the day before what some celebrate Christmas, and it's 2 days before Kwanzaa, where I and others celebrate the first fruit and a number of principles that'll be recognized. Today we are talking about a political prisoner who wrote me back. Right, he wrote me, but he also wrote the community, and I'll share that uh, in a minute. But thank you for your time. I know the value of it, and I'm very appreciative of this opportunity to talk about this important figure. And this brother who I'm talking about is Kenny Zulu Whitmore. If you go to the site that I just showed you on this platform, it's freezulu.org. And if you go there, you'll find what I'm about to read. Because it's important that, before I go into a discussion about a particular political prisoner, that, I give those who are viewing for the first time or those who have never heard about Kenny Zulu Whitmore, to let you know who he is and his story. So this is on freezulu.org. Kenny Zulu Whitmore, or Zulu, has been in prison in Angola, Louisiana for 50 years. We are an international group of people supporting Kenny Zulu Whitmore in prison for life plus many years in Louisiana, USA. Zulu has spent decades, 37 years, in solitary confinement in Angola, in the Louisiana State Penitentiary. It was only, since November of 2015 that he was moved to general population after his lawyers fought for him to be moved. Before Zulu's lawyers were able to do so, Zulu had received a lot of support to stop the torture of solitary confinement. For instance, the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Juan Mendez, wrote in a report about human rights about Zulu being held in solitary confinement for 35 years. Zulu was arrested in December of 1973 on frivolous charges. While in the jail, he met Herman Wallace, with whom he became befriended and who made him a member of the Angola chapter of the Black Panther Party. Zulu went back to the community with the idea of organizing the community against illegal drug trafficking. Zulu was arrested in February of 1975. All charges were dropped against him, but he still couldn't go free. We are still waiting for Zulu to come home. We have been working behind the scenes for many years now to help and support Zulu in his plight for justice. We respond with Zulu, and some of us have visited him. Zulu is to us a wonderful person, deeply humane, with a listening ear and a smile whenever needed. If you would like to get to know Zulu too, why don't you get in touch with him? He can receive letters, not postcards or greeting cards, unfortunately, and you can also write him a so-called email via jpay.com, and he can respond via this means. If you start an account on there and add him, and then they give you the information. Here is his address. Only writers, no postcards or greeting cards, and add your return address on the left top of the envelope, please. That's Kenny Zulu Whitmore, 86468, Cypress number 3, LA State Prison, Angola, Louisiana, 70712. So that's what the website says. So before I even get into the letter that he gave me, it was weeks of me waiting for him to write me back. I was extremely excited, and it brought me back to a time where I received political prisoner letters after writing them. I remember receiving a letter from Matulu Shakur, from David Gilbert, from Jalil Abdul Mudakin, from Suniyata Kohli, a number of them, even the late great Imam Jamil Al-Amin. He wrote me back. So I have some experience, and the excitement is always there. For instance, when I received this letter, I prepared myself. I sat down, I prepared myself mentally to embrace this letter and actually share with others so that we all can utilize our resources to get that letter out there, to let people know that this brother has spoken and he should be heard. He's doing time for us because he had the courage to fight back. And there's nothing wrong with that. And we have to do our part. And that part is to continue to write him back. Share the letter. The open letter was for the community. So the community has responsibility. Those in the community that actually care to write him back, to decide that this brother of ours is in prison because he stood up for us. He fought for our self-determination. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no crime in fighting back. So once we accept that as a fact, then we got to act on it, right? Because there's a distinction between being informed and being conscious, right? We can be informed that there's political prisoners, but our conscious or us really taking that information or that knowledge to another level is to actually do something with it. So now when we write to a political prisoner, we are actually being conscious of a political prisoner, knowing that there's somebody who is unjustly in prison, who chose to take a position and not to ignore what was happening to his people and not pass this down to another generation, and to actually decide that, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to learn what's happened, learn the history of this oppression, and make a serious decision about standing up, about doing what is necessary to move our people forward. So there was 2 letters that the brother gave me. The first one said, and I shared both of them, even though one is directed specifically to me and the other one is for all of us. So the first letter says, "Greeting, Brother Frank. I trust that my letter will find you in the very best of our Lord's love and care. As for myself, I make the best of each day, regardless of the circumstances. Brother Frank, you have the strength to do anything that you desire to do. My strength was to put the test with this wrongful conviction, and it have taken every ounce of my strength to keep it going. You are doing some great work in the community there. I see you have taken the job to educate the people about political prisoners, because we are the most unrepresented class incarcerated people in this country." So I want to put emphasis on that. He said that we are the most unrepresented class incarcerated people in this country. That stuck me very hard, because I was thinking about a number of organizations that are around that advocating for our right for self-determination. And I questioned what is their position on political prisoners. I know that we all have a limited in terms of our collective capacity. And I'm very compassionate and I'm very considerate about that. But, we still have the obligation to raise that, to decide that we're going to make room for that. Even if it's not the entire organization, maybe it could be a number of people or one particular person being designated to have that assignment to monitor the actions of political prisoners, to see what what they need, and to do what we can, right? Because if a member of 2 from each organization does something, write a letter or make some type of financial donation, then that takes the load off of others. So, or even a political prisoner's family. So that's just something to keep in mind. And so, just to return to the letter, it says, "We are the most unrepresented class incarcerated people in this country. So continue to educate the people, my brother. When you reach out to the people in your community, you are building better relationships, sending some Zulu love, strength, and solidarity to your struggle to enlighten the community." So this was written on December 15th, 2025. And this letter is for all of us. And those who want a copy, please contact me at 347-679-3936. Again, that's 347-679-3936. Being that it is a community letter, it's all of ours. It belongs to all of us. So it's not just me. So revolutionary greetings, conscious people. I am Kenny Zulu Whitmore, a political prisoner. I am currently housed at the Louisiana State Prison at Angola, Louisiana. I have been incarcerated 51 years on a wrongful conviction of the August 15, 1973 robbery and murder of the mayor of a then rural town in the northern section of East Baton Rouge Parish. For the last 51 years, I have proclaimed my innocence of this political motivated charges. I have spent 37 and a half, 3.5 years in solitary confinement because of my political beliefs and the fact that I joined the Black Panther Party for self-defense. This January has been a test of my resiliency, and being Muslim, a test of my faith, especially those nearly 38 years in solitary confinement. And I want people to know that being a member of the then BPP on the inside wasn't that much different from being Panther in that world. We was being set up on false charges, bribing others to kill you, being harassed daily by the COs. But to know what? But you know what? Excuse me. I wouldn't change a thing. Let our community bind, let our commonality bind us together as Cable have the Brooklyn Bridge. In solidarity, Kenny Zulu Whitmore. And that was the same date, December 15th, 2025. So here you have both letters. And so please internalize the letters. Kwanzaa will be about 2 days, and it'll be about exactly in 2 days, excuse me. And so that needs to be discussed. The open letter of Kenny Zulu Whitmore, representing not just him, but other political prisoners, right? We had the march that just happened, over 100 miles for Mumia and other political prisoners, and Kenny Zulu Whitmore being one of those political prisoners. So it's becoming more serious, is building a continuous momentum around the issue of political prisoners. So now we have to ask ourselves, what does that mean? So you have the letter, you have the content of the letters. And like I said, you could call me at 347-679-3936, and I can give you a copy of the letter. And we can go back and forth about the letter, what it means, and how we have that duty, that responsibility to utilize that letter and to allow it to put us in a position to raise continuous awareness about this situation, and let Zulu, let Kenny Zulu Whitmore know that he's not forgotten, because that's what happens as we start to engage in this conversation. We start to become more aware of the political prisoner. We start to be more compassionate about the political prisoner and what's going on. We start to understand that just like us, they are going through their struggles. You know, this is a heavy load on their family. And so that we have to be there. We have to be present. We have to be a continuation or an extension of their family. And when we accept that role, when we accept that responsibility, they become stronger. We become stronger. We become clear on what's happening, right? You know, I remember talking to Jalil Abdul Mutakim, and him uh, giving me suggestions about what I need to do regarding the podcast. Because it was in the beginning, he was telling me about TikTok, and I wasn't even aware exactly about what TikTok was about, because it was new. But to know that he was aware of it, he was in tune with what's happening, amazed me. So I say that to say this, that when we start to have these conversations, I know that when I write to a letter to a political prisoner, I'm actually reducing the distractions that I have in my life. Now I put my cell phone to the side. That's something that I'm struggling to reduce and even eliminate the distractions that the cell phone can have, because there's some information that's good, then there's some information that's meaningless and a complete waste of time. But my point is that when I'm writing to a political prisoner at this moment in time, I'm focused. I have tunnel vision. I'm focused on the content. I'm focused on a message that I need to get out there. And the relationship is growing stronger, it's building. So now my job is to share this community letter, this open letter to a community, to let people know that this brother wrote all of us. And it's our duty to respond back individually, which is the representation of the collective interest, right? Let's form an interest in that. We see what's going on in our communities. We see what's happening with ICE. We see the lack of affordable housing in our community. We see police brutality going on. We see a number of issues that's happening right in front of our eyes, right? The struggle for food, clothing, and shelter is real, and it's ongoing. And it's ongoing because of the status situation, the status quo. Those who have want more, and those who have nothing want something. So it's those two ideas that are clashing, and those who ideas that are clashing continue to make life more stressful unnecessarily. But our brother Kenny Zulu Whitmore, he's strong. He's a symbol of strength. To endure that long and to hold your head for that long says a lot about who you are and what your consciousness is. And so that inspires me not to complain, but decide what needs to be done. Decide that I'm going to stand up. I'm going to take a definitive position when it comes to our political prisoners. I'm going to be very serious about the issue of political prisoners. This book was given to me by a beloved comrade, a veteran comrade, and I'm very appreciative of it. So I want to get into this book too, because it's always important that we have a number of resources that we go to when we talk about our political prisoners, and just to let you see different things that are addressing that, because now we start to understand that it's bigger than one particular person. It's bigger than organization. It's bigger than just going online and Googling somebody's name. That there are publications that are committed to raising awareness of political prisoners, and we need to know what the publications are. We need to utilize that wherever we at, because just imagine when you go to Kwanzaa and you're talking about political prisoners. You got a button, you got a shirt, you got some literature that you can share with others. So now when you pour libation, if that's going to be a part of the Kwanzaa celebration or a ceremony, then you could call on the name of somebody like Imam Jamil Al-Amin, or somebody like Robert Seth Hayes, or somebody like, I got on the other side, Romaine Chitts Fitzgerald. There are a number of political prisoners who made their transaction, who deserve recognition, who deserve our time to reflect on their sacrifices, to reflect on the fact that not all of them came home from prison and made their transition. Some of them died in prison. And that should bother us a lot. And as we go through the principles in Kwanzaa, we're going to deal with collective work and responsibility. How does that relate directly to the political prisoner? We're going to deal with Kuji Chagoleo, self-determination, right? What does that actually mean to you? Right? And I was amazed, or I was rather really intensely informed, and to the point where now I have to look at this on a whole nother level. When I looked up the definition of self-determination, and it said the right to exist. And I said, wow, that's simple, but yet very profound, because it allows you to look at how you're existing, right? Can police just come to your community and do what they want, however they want, to whoever they want? And while you're looking terrified, you have a right to stand up against that. You have a right to protect the future of your community, which is the lives of the children, our future doctors, lawyers, accountants, plumbers, etc. Whatever is necessary to continue to develop a community. Those are the children. Those are future leaders. And if they feel helpless or hopeless because of the police presence in their community, the police doing a bad job with keeping the community safe. In fact, that's our job, right? And that's what the Black Panther Party taught us. That's what the Black Liberation Army taught us, that we had a right to self-determination. But let me get back to this book. Who is Kenny Zulu Whitmore? Kenny Zulu Whitmore has been in Angola State Prison for 36 years. He was falsely charged and convicted of armed robbery and murder. When Zulu was sent to Angola in 1978, he met King and Wood Fox of the Angola Three. He had met Wallace previously during a 1973 stint in the Baton Rouge jail for a robbery charge, which was later dropped. Wallace planted the seed of political activism then, which continued to grow in Zulu's mind. At Angola, he became close friends with Wood Fox and King, and later reunited with Wallace, and he joined the Black Panther Party. It was agreed Zulu should remain in the shadows, out of the direct line of the administration fire. However, by being in the shadow has not stopped his activism. He has been a part of the Angola 3 committee since its inception. Zulu was targeted. He's a victim. Morally, he should be out. So that is in over 900 years in captivity. It gives you a collective biography of our political prisoners. It's a must read. It's a must have. it is our resource to know about those who are in prison, those whose stories need to be told continuously during Kwanzaa and after Kwanzaa, during Black History Month and after Black History Month. Anytime you can talk about a political prisoner, make it your business to do so. Anytime that you can express your solidarity for political prisoners by writing to a political prisoner, do so, or wearing an apparel that addresses political prisoners, has a face of a political prisoner. This helps the work tremendously, right? If you're like me and you frequent the subway or frequent the bus, there are people looking and staring, and now you're sending a message to them about somebody who's in prison. If you say free Zulu, they're wondering who is Zulu and why should he be free. And that's when, if you don't get the opportunity to speak to them about him, they are going to do their research if they're really interested in who he is and what he did or what he was accused of doing. And they're going to take it upon themselves to research and become informed. And maybe they'll even take it upon themselves to write to him. And that's why this episode is important. Its focus is on writing to a political prisoner. That should be a part of your Kwanzaa work, because Kwanzaa is more than just coming together and expressing our culture. It is about actually taking that to another step, making a definitive decision about getting involved in community work. And our political prisoners, writing them, bringing them home, organizing to bring them home, providing them with funds, is a part of our collective work. It's a part of our collective responsibility, right? We didn't forget Malcolm X when he was taken from us violently. We didn't forget Martin Luther King when he was taken from us violently. We didn't forget nobody who was taken from us violently, and those who sacrificed most of their lives for our right to self-determination. People like Mutulu Shakur, people like Imam Jamil El-Amin, people like Sekou Odinga, right? We don't forget them. We continue to talk about them. And that's why what we're doing is necessary, because we have to be very committed to this cause, to freeing our political prisoners, to making sure that they're not forgotten, to making sure that this work on freeing them continues. We got to do it in our lifetime. We got to be very serious about doing this work. Because if we're not doing this work, what is going to be said to another generation that's going to come and have to make some serious decision about what's happening? How much commitment are they going to have? Because are they going to be inspired to do this work? It is determined on how we do it with people like Kenny Zulu Whitmore. I know that the idea that they are political prisoners weighs heavy on some of us, because we feel like, we could be the next one. But, there's something in us instinctively that motivates us, that drives us to stand for what is right. And that's exactly what a political prisoner position is, right? They were never comfortable with seeing their people oppressed. They were never comfortable seeing their people brutalized, seeing their people exploited. And then once they read and once they were able to connect the political dots, then they knew what they had to do. They knew that they had to be a part of something that was bigger than them. They had explanations for why their family member, if their family member was on drugs, right? Why were they on drugs, and how did they get on drugs? And how did the drugs get in our community? See, these are questions that come into the minds of political prisoners or anybody who's struggling to advance in terms of their consciousness, deciding that something happened that's wrong, and I'm only going to justify the wrong by not doing anything. Now, once I confront what is wrong, then I make a decision about what I have to do. I make a decision that I'm going to step up. I make a decision that, this is necessary for me to take a position regarding our right to self-determination. I can't be relaxed. I can't be comfortable. I have to do what is right. And I'm going to actually do what is right. And so I have a lot of respect for people like Kenny Zulu Whitmore. I have a lot of respect for so many people like that. Our future, they represent so much of us. Sorry. I have a situation when my phone rings. It takes me off of what I'm doing. So deepest apologies for that. I had a little minor setback, but how we do on this platform, we continue to perform. We continue to give you what we have to give you at our capacity, right? Just like our political prisoner doesn't give up the fight, we don't give up making content. So for those of you who are viewing and had patience with me, I appreciate you deeply. I am extremely thankful for your time. I know the value of it. So like I said, Kwanzaa is right around the corner. So I'm just providing you with some content, providing you with some ideas around Kwanzaa, how we need to deal with it, how we need to recognize um, its power, its importance, right? We have the opportunity to speak about, as our brother Zulu said, the most unrepresented people in the prison system, right? And we have to really think about that, right? Because you think about Mumia being in prison for so many years, decades, and the amount of support he had as opposed to what he has now, right? He started off with a lot more, but after the years, things happen in people's lives, and you have less supporters. But with the march, and for us continuing to talk about him, who he is, and why he's important to us, we have an opportunity to bring more people involved in this work. And that's why continuing to write to political prisoners wherever you at, start to circulate those ideas in different locations. Start to help people recognize that there are people who are in prison who are not being recognized, who are not given as much time as they need to be given, and we have to do our part. We have to make sure that they are talked about, to make sure that they are not forgotten, to make sure that we're going to struggle to raise people consciousness. So if any of you who need that information on our political prisoners in terms of addresses, contact me at 347-679-3936. Again, that's 347-679-3936. And let's talk about that. Let's get you that information. And then, you share it with your group, and even text me that you wrote. And then let's even have a conversation, whether it's on the phone or it's just going back and forth in text, about what that actually meant to you and what your role or your responsibility is in terms of receiving this powerful letter from a political prisoner. If you cover your community and I cover my community, now we have two communities that can talk about political prisoners and talk about how we're going to raise more people's consciousness about political prisoners. I know being in Queensbridge and having a banner when I did, I haven't done it in a while, but I would have a banner that says, "Don't let political prisoners die in prison." Now that idea is not something that people are accustomed to. So now when you start to hear that, you start to think about what a political prisoner is and the fact that we should not let them die in prison. So I took that task upon very seriously. And I know I shared with you and for other listeners that this is something, or these ideas, that once we start, we'll be amazed at the response that others have. And then we can start to have this ongoing dialogue about our political prisoners, our Mumia Abu Jamars, our Kenny Zulu Whitmores. And so another generation will be exposed to the ideas of political prisoners. If you're like me, you know that you have to start preparing another generation to take up this serious work. So I'm just going to end this episode. Our time has come to a close, but I'll be back next week and we'll continue the discussion. Thank you for your patience as I had that technical interruption as my phone rung. But anyway, peace and love. Be safe in your travels. And looking forward to talking to you next week. Peace and love. Y'all know the call. Free them all. Don't let another political prisoner die in prison. Peace.